Does the government work for us or do we work for the government? Can the federal government take credit for saving us from a plot of its own creation?
Bear in mind that Napolitano aired this 9 years ago, and at that time the number of FBI-generated domestic terrorist attacks was 17.
The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds.
Please let that set in for a moment. All 17 of the FBI-thwarted domestic terror attacks that were given to us by the media and the hip hip hooray for the FBI, these attacks were started by the FBI.
The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds.
Do you recall the more recent domestic terrorist attack or attempted attack on kidnapping the female governor of Michigan? Yep, FBI. They've already been to court and been found innocent. There's a case of entrapment. That was the FBI. How many times did the media tell you that? They told you about the thwarted attack attempt, but they didn't tell you that they were found innocent and that it was FBI generated, right?
We all remember the 3 that were foiled by diligent Americans: the shoe bomber, the underwear bomber, and the Times Square bomber. In all of these cases, the crimes charged were those of attempting to kill and conspiring with others to do so.
So in 3 cases, citizens jumped the terrorists and stopped the real terrorist attacks. And guess what? Some of them are believed to have been started by the FBI.
And of them, 3 were interrupted by members of the public. The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds.
I'm just going to keep saying that over and over until it's driven through into people's heads. They were created by the feds.
There have been 20 foiled plots, and of them, 3 were interrupted by members of the public. The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds. The 17 that were interrupted by the feds were created by the feds. But the more curious cases are the remaining 17 for which the federal government has taken credit.
Now, when each one of these domestic terrorist attacks were thwarted, it was blown all over the media, all over. The FBI stopped an attack. FBI stopped a Muslim attack, stopped a Muslim attack. They never told you it was the FBI that started the attack. What's that? What does that say to us?
They all have a common and reprehensible thread. They were planned, plotted, controlled, and carried out by the federal government itself. They were planned, plotted, controlled, and carried out by the federal government itself. In all of these 17 cases, from the Fort Dix 6 to the Lackawanna 7 to the Portland Parade bomber, the feds found young men of Muslim backgrounds.
They found young men of Muslim backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds, Muslim backgrounds.
The third parties were typically persons who had been convicted of crimes and who, in return for leniency at their own sentencings, were willing to work with the same feds who prosecuted them in order to help the feds entrap whomever else those feds were pursuing.
So who were these people, who were these Americans that had been arrested and then the FBI used them to trap other Muslims in attacks by using money and so forth? Who were they? Well, Napolitano didn't know it at the time. They were doing real bloodthirsty shit, like sending boxes of medicine to their family in Iran. So the next thing you know, these people are threatened with 30 years in federal prison if they don't go sell out somebody at their mosque, or they just find a low-intelligence Muslim kid somewhere that needs 50 grand.
The losers whom the feds targeted each believed that they were interacting with real plotters who would bring them cash.
Who would bring them cash, would bring them cash, would bring them cash, would bring them cash.
The feds found young men of Muslim backgrounds.
found men of Muslim background and would bring them cash, found men of Muslim background and would bring them cash.
They befriended them, cajoled them, and persuaded them.
I've looked into a couple of these cases. They would usually find a man of Muslim background in need of cash and start off by asking him if he'd like a new pair of boots and $50,000 in cash just to take part in some training.
Thus, in all 17 of these cases, because of the command and control of federal agents, no one was ever in danger, no one was harmed, no bomb went off, and no property was damaged.
So I ask you this. If 9 years ago the FBI had started and stopped 17 Muslim terrorist attacks, how many have they started and stopped today? And more importantly, have they stopped all the ones that they've started? Think about the Boston Marathon bombing. 2 young men, Muslim descent, needing cash, bombed a marathon and had been working with the FBI for not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but for 5 years. Think it through. My hat's off to Napolitano. He went as far as he could go on national TV. I'm surprised he's alive. Napolitano is completely out of the media now and runs his own podcast and is continuing to do what he does, which is tell the truth. You can cut the video off now. I'm just going to sit here and keep saying it, the truth, over and over and over again. Listen to this.
You can't handle the truth!